So last but not least, we have Peter Ledwidge, Managing Director of Mako Gold. Prior to founding Mako Gold, Peter was the Senior Manager with ASX-listed Orbis Gold, whereby he secured all of Orbis's permits in Burkina Faso and Côte d'Ivoire. Peter played a critical role in the discovery of the Nabunga gold deposit and thereafter contributed geological ideas towards the discovery of the Bongu mine, currently being mined by Endeavour Mining. So please welcome Peter. Thank you.
Thanks for coming to listen to the exciting Mako Gold story. Before I start, I'd like to welcome our Côte d'Ivoire delegates. Donc, bienvenue aux délégués de Côte d'Ivoire. On sait que c'est un long voyage et donc bonne arrivée. Et merci pour votre appui. On the front page here, you see our Mako officer that is dedicated only to social license to operate, and we support local communities and festivities. So that's and in many other ways. So that's very important to us. There's a disclaimer, which you should read when you're bored. I'm going to talk about 5 points. First is our recent maiden resource, which is 868,000 ounces, which we announced in June. Then I'm going to talk about the rapid growth pattern of that resource and the team, ex-Orbis Gold, and we've made 2 discoveries with Mako, so altogether 5 discoveries in West Africa. So we think we know what we're doing, and we're exploring in an extremely good part of the world. And our resource only represents about 13% of this prospective ground. So here you can see a map of Côte d'Ivoire. You can see our 2 of our projects. The flagship project, the Napier project, is a JV that we have with Perseus Mining, and we renegotiated that and so that we get a 90% ownership, and instead of just having a stake in the project, they now have a stake in any discoveries that we make in the future. So that's a win-win situation for everyone. The other project is the Korhogo project, which is 100% Mako ownership. And before I move on to the other slides, I'd like to point out the Korhogo project. It's got a fault that goes all the way to the north to Endeavour's Wagnon mine. One of our directors did the feasibility for that, and we picked that ground because of that very prospective fault. And it's our number 2 project, so we're not taking our eye off the ball. The Napier project is definitely the one that we think is a company maker for Mako. So our maiden discovery, very happy about that. People were expecting anywhere from 500,000 to 700,000 ounces. We came up with 868,000 ounces and lots of room to grow on there. So you can see the Napier project, a very large project. We get a 30-kilometer shear north-south. On it, we have 4 prospects that we're really working on, and the Gogbala and Chaga deposits are just the beginning, and together they add up to 868,000 ounces. And the other 2, Chaga North and Korhogo, after we announced our maiden resource, we announced the discovery on the Korhogo prospect. So that really demonstrates the longer-term growth on a regional scale. So our resource strategy is to grow primarily at the Gogbala, where we have 323,000 ounces, and we've just barely touched that. And we plan to drill at depth. We only drill to about 160 meters on Gogbala and 190 meters on Chaga. The average depth of recent deposits in West Africa is about 300 meters. And the key point about that, as you can see highlighted in blue, is the deeper we go, the better the grade gets. So here you can see the 2 prospects where we have the resource, Chaga and Gogbala. You see that big stretch between them, 4.5 kilometers. We did some drilling on there with some very good results, but not enough to include that in the resource. So that's one of the key points, key targets that we'll be going forward when we resume drilling after the wet season. And I'd like to point out on Chaga, you see it really well there. Those drill holes that are below that maximum depth of the resource, 190 meters, and those were not included in the resource. So here's a plan view, a block model view rather, of the Chaga deposit. What's really exciting is you can see the red and the pink, that's over 3 and 4 grams. And you can see it comes right to surface, and I'll show you on the next slide how it goes down at depth as well. So, so here you can see that section. That red line represents the depth of the resource there. And you can see that drill hole on the very left-hand side where we drilled underneath that red part that's not included in the resource. We had 19 meters at 4 grams. So obviously we're gonna drill a hole underneath that. We're gonna drill in the section in front of that and behind that. And we think that that's pretty easy ounces to add to the resource. Now there's a Gogbala resource. We like to call it New Zealand. You have the North Island and the South Island, and you can see that gap between it, and not drilled at all. So obviously that's going to be one of the targets. Once again, you can see on the northern part, on say the North Island, we get some high grade coming right up to that gap. So pretty easy target. Even first-year geologists could pick that as a way to grow the resource. I'll show you a section AB on that one as well. So here it is again, 160 meters maximum depth here, and we got some nice high grade below it. So obviously that's a growth pattern that we're going to be following. So now our strategy on Gogbala, that's where we're going to get the cheapest ounces to grow our resource quickly. So those targets are numbered 1 to 3 in order of priority. So number 1 is, you see that little white circled on the eastern splay, that fault, that's part of the resource. That's 20,000 ounces of resource, about half a dozen drill holes. That's where we finished our drilling before the wet season. We have a stretch of that fault that runs 30 kilometers. As I pointed out, there's 4.5 kilometers there of totally undrilled fault. You can see the coincident soil anomaly. I forgot to mention on the permit scale map, we got a coincident soil anomaly of 23 kilometers that runs along that fault. So you can see it in yellow there. So obviously that's one of the targets where we're hoping to add ounces quickly. The other number 3 target is, the gap between the North Island and the South Island. And number 2 target is where we've done some drilling, but not enough to include in the resource. So we're going to do some extensional drilling there, not infill, extensional, just work outwards from what we know, and then hopefully add some ounces there. So really on Chaga and Gogbala together, we think that I'll be talking here next year, and we'll have 1.5 million ounces. So now in a regional strategy, I've just talked about Chaga and Gogbala. You can see where they are, the 2 white squares. As I pointed out, that's only 13% of that 30-kilometer shear. We just announced a discovery on Korhogo, and we had some, recently this year, we had some good drill results at Chaga North as well. So that's the growth strategy going forward. I just talked about growing the resource at Chaga and Gogbala at 1.5 million ounces. And now I'm going to talk about the new targets for resource drill out. So here's Korhogo. We announced that discovery. We had our geologist went out there and did some mapping. We hadn't touched it at all since we started drilling in 2018 because we were concentrating in the south. And they went out there and mapped, and those orange polygons that you see, that's an intermittent 9-kilometer long artisanal mining site. And along that is a coincident structure from our geophysics. So we had 7 targets, K1 to 7, that you can see there. 6 out of the 7 targets hit gold. So it kind of tells us that, it's pretty prospective. We only put 23 holes in that whole 9-kilometer area. So we're pretty excited about that. And obviously that's going to be an exploration target that we can, hopefully I can be talking to you next year and telling you that we're doing a resource drill out on that. So target K1, 9 meters at 3.2 grams in the same hole. 1 meter, 32 grams. Some of the other holes, 5 meter, I can't read it anymore. We have too many good results for me to remember them all, but really very good targets for us. Chaga North, same thing. That was our discovery drill hole in 2018, 8 meters and 8.5 grams. We barely did not go back there. I think we did 3 drill holes about 2 years ago on there. Other than that, we left that alone. You can see that soil anomaly in yellow, very broad, part of that plus 40 ppb soil anomaly. And we did some air core drilling this year, 4 meters at 100 plus grams per ton. You can, between that and the other results we had in rock chip sampling, we prioritized that 2-kilometer area, so we're obviously going to be doing some good exploration on there. So as a whole, really, 1.5 targets, 1.5 million on Chaga and Gogbala within the next year. Being conservative, we think that we can get at least 500,000 ounces on Chaga North and Kombohosa already. We're looking at 2.5 million ounces, but we think that this project has a potential to host at least 3 to 4 million ounces. We did our preliminary metallurgy back in 2019, which was a risky move for us, and we did some simple bottle rolls on Chaga, and both oxide and fresh rock came back over 94%. As I said, it was a risky move for us, but we wanted to know very early on if we were dealing with a refractory problem, which it doesn't appear that we are. And if we did get something refractory, we wanted to know, is there a solution to it? And if there isn't a solution, well, don't pour more money into it. So part of our program this year will be to do some kinetic testing and some more intensive metallurgical test work on Chaga and Gogbala. So now I'll talk about the Korhogo project. That's the one that's along that fault that goes all the way to Endeavour's Wagnian mine. And you can see we did soil sampling, airborne geophysics, some mapping, and then we followed up with certain areas we did some auger drilling. And I'd like to really point out that auger target on the northern pyramid, which is, if you look just 15 kilometers over, there's Barrick's 5 million ounce Tongan mine, which is almost depleted. So we get the potential of toll milling there. But also, we've got the footprint of the auger anomaly is the same size as 5 million ounces. Now, I'm not going to tell you that we have 5 million ounces just because it's the same size, but it basically tells you that we do not get a project unless it's got the makings of a large deposit. So we're going to move that one along, but without losing sight that the Napke project is the one that's really going to put us on the map. Now, ESG, you saw the picture on the front page where we're supporting Independence Day in Côte d'Ivoire very recently. We really support the local communities, and we pick our contractors very carefully. So I'm not putting in a free plug here for Geodrill, but they've got such a good ESG record. That water well, they went halves on it with us. And anything that we want to do with the community, they're there to help us. So ESG, we've believed in it before it became the word of the minute. We've got gender diversity. You can see a young female geologist. Out of our 9 junior geologists we have, 4 of them are females. The guy on the right-hand upper picture with the yellow vest on, that's a geologist we hired right out of university about 8-9 years ago when we were with Orbis, and now he's a 2IC on the project. So we're really, bringing up the training, if you will, in the country. When we have our bulldozers out doing our drill pads, we ask the community, okay, what roads do you want to get fixed? And that helps them out. We built a bridge between Chaga prospect and Gogbala prospect. Yes, it was to help us, but it helped the community. What was before a 1.5 hour trip for them is now a half-hour trip. So all that to say that we've got a very good relationship with all stakeholders in the community, all the way from the local village chief up to the administration in Abidjan. Oops, missed the slide there. Back up, there we go. So this is taken in April. The three white faces you see are myself and the GM exploration manager and our database geologist. But other than that, 100% of our crew on the ground is West African. And so we really like that. They know how to get things done, and we're helping the local community by doing that. Now we've got a team, a management team with extremely strong West African experience. Our chairman, Michele Musillo, who's in the room here, corporate lawyer. He was on the board of Orbis Gold. He was on the board of Cardinal, and he was instrumental in those takeovers, of which were very successful. We have Steve Zaninovich, who was he's an engineer. He did the feasibility study for the Wagnian mine, for Teranga. He was a COO of Griffin that discovered it. And then myself and Anne, my husband and wife team, we've been working as long as we've known each other for close to 30 years now, and it's still working. And both geologists with 30 plus years experience. And I certainly don't want to forget Ibrahim Bondo, our operations manager, who's been with us. He's a co-founder of the company. Myself, Anne, and Ibrahim founded the company in 2015, listed in 2018. So he's an instrumental part. I do not make a move without consulting with him first. And Boukare Gigma, who's our chief geologist, who was with us at Orbis as well. And he's been with us going on 10 years now, which is how we've operated so well during these hard times during COVID. Now on the corporate slide, we've got 31% institutions, and we had that before we came out our resource. You can see some pretty good names there. Dundee out of North America, they have just under 10%. Deutsche Balaton or Delphi out of Germany, they have under 13%. We've got Lowell Resources Fund out of Melbourne, Marshall Precious Funds, Sprott's in as well. So it's a validation of what people think that we can accomplish here. We've got a very low market cap right now, about 26 million or so. At the end of June, we had about $2.9 million in the bank. And what's really important is that the top 20 hold 55% of the company. And so that means that we'll stay in control of the company and we won't get taken over too early. Now, Justin talked about how prospective West Africa is. If you look at the red arrow on there, that's the whole Birimian is the same width as Western Australia here. And there's 400 million ounces that have been discovered, and those large elephant deposits that Justin was referring to. So that's one of the many reasons we're there. I challenge you to find, those open pit deposits in North America or Canada right now that's been explored. North America and Australia. There's my Canadian coming out in me. And Côte d'Ivoire, we believe, is the best destination in West Africa. And we've got a very supportive government that's very pro-mining. You can see Abidjan, a very modern city. Hydroelectricity, green energy. On our Napier permit, we've got a bitumen road and hydroelectricity. So all we need is a little bit of gold, add water, and away you go. And so it's, we love working there. It's very easy to get things done. And as I said, a very supportive government. So our next steps, we'll start drilling again as soon as the wet season finishes, probably in about a month. And so basically add ounces to Chaga, Gogbala, do some exploration on the other two prospects and go for the big prize. And the big prize is to get a mine into production. So please come see us at our booth, and I'm accessible. That's my mobile phone there and my email address. So I'm accessible to all shareholders and potential investors. Thanks.